my name is Stuart Maudsley. I'm the Odysseus Professor of Receptor Pharmacology here at the University of Antwerp, and I run the Receptor Biology Lab. And I'm going to be talking to you today about mentoring. So, as you can see from my grey hair, I'm quite old, and I've had quite a lot of students of all different types from different places and different backgrounds. And so I'm trying to give some of my experience to you with respect to finding and forging this relationship, which is probably one of the most important relationships in science. I wholeheartedly feel that the ability to form this bond and to use it productively is what really drives science more than anything else, perhaps, even more than technological advancements. So having this communication and this human link is vital, and I'll try and show you how important it is. So let's go back in history as usual. So here you can see two slides. So here we have, on the left-hand side, we have this young chap. He's Telemachus. He is the son of Odysseus. So Odysseus was the Greek hero of the Odyssey and the Iliad. So Odysseus spent 10 years in the Trojan War, 10 years coming back. So tremendous journeys. And so while he was away, he had his friend, mentor, look after Telemachus and help him, and his mum Penelope. So this was one of the first classic books ever written, and it indicates how important the wise influence of Mentor had with Telemachus. And this is indeed why we call mentors Mentor, because basically he was the archetype, and this was like 700 BC. So when I was a kiddie, I really loved manga. So I actually watched a whole series, which is a French-Japanese series called Ulysses 31. So they transported Odysseus or Ulysses into the 31st century and retold all these great stories of returning from Troy back home in sort of modern sci-fi context. But it just shows you how important these stories are. This is one of the oldest stories that we know, and implicit in the story is like learning knowledge from wise people. So this is what mentoring is all about, and this is why it's so important. It is the scientific process, I do sincerely feel. So let's start off by looking at some of my students. And so these are a whole bunch of students that I've had recently here in the Receptor Biology Lab, a whole variety of different types of people, all with a drive to do science. And each one of them is a unique individual with a unique set of talents and skills, and also different personalities. So dealing with them all is incredibly enriching as a supervisor. So it's really vital to understand and get on with as many different types of people as possible. So you are here. So as you can see, we are trying to position ourselves in the world of science. So when you're young and when you're starting out, you are sort of, okay, how do I fit into this great world of science that exists? So the interesting thing is, quite recently we started doing these mentor trees. So this is a representation of just a small part. So this bit here at the top, you can see, is my current mentor tree, and actually down below is the actual full size of it. And this is from academictree.org, where you can go and situate yourself amongst all of your previous mentors. So as you can see, I'm in sort of red here, and this was one of my great mentors, was a guy called Bob Lefkowitz, and so I did my postdoctoral fellowship with him at Duke University in the States. But then if you then go back in the tree life, you can go further up the tree here, and you realize that you're connected to all these amazing people that you never thought you were. So here is Auguste Kekulé from the structure of benzene. This is Robert Bunsen, for obvious reasons. You might notice Erwin Schrödinger, Max Planck, and finally Justus Liebig. All these great chemists and these great thinkers and these astonishing people, and I'm connected to them. And it's quite remarkable to think that this mentoring process glues people together and brings people over hundreds of years to be part of an organization, part of a structure. So when you're a scientist, you're joining this sort of tree. So you should feel very proud and interested in where you're going. So, amazingly enough, this is how we're going to talk about mentoring. You'd never guess it. And this is one of the important aspects I like to try and introduce, is that to get to know your mentor is a very important thing. So you have to make a choice of what that mentor is like and appreciate them. So the way I do this with students is I just give them my personality and say, hey, this is my own personality, and this is my science personality. The way I am is the way I do science. So amazingly enough, all of these images, we're going to take us through the world of mentoring. So you never know where you're going to start off. So the first thing is choose your mentor wisely. It seems very, very obvious. But if this relationship goes well, it's going to stay with you forever. I started being mentored by other people over 20 years ago, and I still know them personally and intellectually to this day, and I'll never stop working with them. So it is incredibly important. So the most important things to look for is a compatibility of mentality and a compatibility also of personality. If you're different personalities, it's going to make it very difficult. So try and engage and understand what makes your potential mentor tick and also what makes you tick. So your journey will not only be a journey of your relationship with your mentor, but also of your own interaction with science and also with your own personality in life. I would say that was a very strong influence in me. It was going away to be a scientist and then realizing exactly who I was. So when you work out what you are, you can understand what you're compatible with, and then you'll be able to find a mentor that actually is really good for you. So you want to find one that inspires you, that makes you laugh, you're interested in working with. So all of these features, try and do this in as many dimensions as possible. Don't just do it for the type of research that they're doing, because that's likely to change in a few years' time. So look at every aspect of their personality and every aspect of their work. Try and find compatibility. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but has to be sort of compatible. You don't want to rub up against each other all the time. So it's very clear to make these good choices. So the other important point is don't have just one. Don't just have one mentor. A mentor can be from anywhere. Clear, we always have this idea of the individual specific scientific mentor, so me with my old mentor Bob Lefkowitz, but I had many other mentors at that time. So I had mentors for certain aspects of science, mentors that I would talk about with respect to how to publish or how to write or how to do a new piece of skill, or a mentor that could sort of give me advice from an emotional point of view or a research point of view or a presentation point of view. So try and get as many arrows in your quiver as possible. Don't limit yourself just to one voice of advice or one person as a mentor. You can have a primary mentor, but then look for advice and look for wisdom in as many different places as you can find it. It really does help tremendously when you get this sort of quorum sensing capacity, when you have reliance on input from as many different potential mentors as possible. So never feel bad about having more than one. That's perfectly okay. So, as you can see here, you have to think both what's just in front of your feet, but also what's at the end of the journey. So in science in general, you always have to have a plan and goals. But just as important to your research is your interaction and your relationship with your potential mentor or mentors. So what you want to try and do is you want to try and see, when you start off with a new mentor, is what can we achieve with respect to this relationship in a short term. So can we, from an experimental point of view, can we set things up, and then can we see how that process goes and see how the relationship starts off. But also think about the future. So we'll get to this later. So science moves so quickly, and hopefully part of that moving so quickly will be your advancement of science. And that really does come from the relationship with your mentor. I can't tell you how important that relationship is, because your ability to be creative or your ability to drive yourself is really dependent on the ability for you to maintain that desire. And a large part of that can come from having good mentors, both at the intellectual level, but also at the emotional level as well. Because if you're not feeling happy, if you're not feeling fulfilled, your brain is not going to work too well. So consider your relationship with your mentor, both from a short-term goal point of view, but also from a long-term point of view. Because hopefully what you want, and this is why you choose wisely, is to maintain this relationship for almost the rest of your life. It's like no other friendship. It's sort of like a friendship, and it's an intellectual journey. It's really one of the reasons I got into science, was to join this sort of group, this academic tree. I think it's a fabulous institution. So, one of my favorite films. So the important thing, especially, and I've said this a million times, is communication. This is what Sam alluded to before. And when I was a student, I basically lived in the doorway of my PhD mentor, Dan Donnelly. I would spend virtually half of my day in there talking to him about my results and what I was doing and what I wanted to do next. I'm sure I probably annoyed the hell out of him, but I was desperate to get feedback. I really wanted to know. This is the important thing when you start off in science as a mentee and as a mentor as well, because it actually goes both ways, this relationship. So as a mentee, you will educate your mentor, even the best ones. And as a mentor, you'll be educated by your mentees. So you're actually improving each other. So always try and maintain the feedback, both from the mentor to the mentee and vice versa. So this is important from a point of view of science, but it's an important thing from a point of view of regulating and maintaining the positivity of this relationship. So often problems can arise when there's periods of non-communication. But if you keep this on a daily basis, and even if it's just popping your head around the corner and saying, hey, how you doing? Spend a few minutes time discussing something, discussing a bit of science, that is the way to keep it going. Every day, small bits. So when I was a postdoctoral fellow, I went to one of the biggest laboratories in the world, and I was amazed that virtually no one was inside the lab, everyone was outside the lab, and they were talking. And I was thinking, what on earth are you doing? And I realized that actually it was the talking, and it was the constant, slow feedback between one person to the other, and then to the mentor, and then back down again. This constant feeding and checking is like a sensing mechanism to make sure everything keeps going, and the oil sort of lubricates the engine. So it's very important things to keep this quick line of communication with your mentor. So, as I said, talking is excellent, but also the really important thing is to keep asking questions. Always realize that you're never going to be sure about what you're doing. And I'm sure some excellent speakers later on will be talking about this. It's a constant state of confusion in science because you are doing things that no one else has done. So you should be confused and you should be perplexed at times, and that's perfectly fine. But the way to get around this is to ask yourself questions, but ask your mentor questions at the same time. And the mentor will be challenged tremendously, but the mentor is really appreciative of the student that keeps on going and keeps on questioning what's going on. It's the only way to prevent yourself from sort of misinforming yourself about the results or about how things are going. So you can question both how things are going from a technical point of view, but also from a relationship point of view. So never be afraid. And as Sam said, there are no stupid questions, but there are some stupid answers. Hopefully I won't be giving any stupid answers later, but I'll try my best. So here's a very important point, is one of the biggest issues with respect to this type of technical relationship is if you make a mistake or your boss makes a mistake, you've got to be honest about it. And this is one of the most important reasons about having this ongoing relationship, is that when I've had people in the lab who've made horrendous mistakes, I might put my head in my hands for 1 or 2 seconds. Then I think, okay, let's just fix it. Let's just get on with it. And that's it. And we just instantly brush it away. I'm happy that the students have said, I've made a mistake. If the mistake hasn't been owned up to, or I've made a mistake and I don't own up to it, it just concatenates and it keeps on going and grows and grows and grows. So believe you me, if you're worried about doing something wrong, don't be. Your mentor will cherish the fact that you're being honest, and it's the only way to fix things and to move ahead in science. So don't worry if things go bad. That's normal. That's absolutely expected. It's one of the hardest things to take in science is the fact that it is a very low success rate. But that's why we have mentors, to keep you going. And clearly, the important thing there is to support one another, is that neither can do the job on their own. The mentor, if they have no students or they have no people working with them, they can't get anything done. And as a student, if you don't have a senior supervisor or someone informing you on how to push things forward, they're not going to get anything done. So you really are in each other's pocket. And that's the beauty of this whole process. Neither one is an island, and you cannot live like that. And that's why, as I said right at the top, this is the essence of what science is the mentoring relationship. And that's why you actually really, 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 really have to work at it. It doesn't come naturally, and you can start off being very compatible, and things can change, and it can get worse. But if you both have a common goal and a common desire, it will keep on working. So you really have to work actually as a team during this. So even if you feel very junior and you're new in the lab, your mentor needs you as much as you need him or her. So when things do go well, you really have to enjoy it. My goodness. And you have to make sure that any modicum of success that you experience, you have to really cherish it, because 2%, 3% success of your experiments and this process is going to be there. So you seriously have to, you really have to enjoy science, and you have to enjoy this relationship, and you can have tremendous fun in this respect. And you can end up not being like poor old Chewie, who didn't get a medal. But he got one in the end, so don't worry. So, as we go forward, so this is what I mentioned at one of the earlier slides, was to have both short-term goals but also long-term goals. What your mentor dearly wants is for you to go forward into the future and do what they do. So don't be afraid to presume or have a consciousness of your success in the future. You really should do that. You should plan for your success. So you should actually talk to your mentor about this. And your mentor will be very happy to hear you thinking about future plans. So don't be worried about doing this too early on. First day might be a bit too excessive, but a few months after that will be perfectly okay, because it's good. You have to have these long-term plans, and the mentor will be more than happy to help you with this process. So let's say you've been successful, and let's say you've done a postdoc or a PhD or whatever, and it's time to go. It's so important to stay in contact, and you really need to sort of understand that often this relationship has to continue, because they will continue to help and assist you, and you will actually grow with that too as well. So don't be afraid to it's not like a sign of, hanging on to the coattails and stuff. It's actually really important to maintain this. And as you saw from this academic tree before, we're all part of this process. None of us rule those trees. We're all in there together. So maintaining that contact is really, really important. So when you do leave, and your mentor will be most overjoyed to hear that you're probably interested in collaborating with them in the future. So start thinking about this before you might even leave, or think that you're ending this relationship. You're never going to end this relationship. It's going to stay there forever if you make a wise choice and if you work at it and you build on it. So while you're doing your work, think about how you could potentially collaborate in the future, because this is what we want to do. We want to continue, want to be greater than the sum of just one person. Science doesn't work like that. It's a group team activity, and that's how we should always think about it. So think about how you could help out in the future. I've spent so much time trying to pay back what my mentors have done for me and try and help and assist them. So this is one of the kernel features of this process. Then here's the sad thing when I have to tell students about this. You've got to do it all over again. So wake up, dust yourself off, do it again. But you're not just doing it again for you, that you have to potentially, as a person that leaves a lab or a research group, is the goal and the dream of your mentor. They feel fulfilled when they see you going and being a mentor for somebody else. Then that's almost like, wow, I've done it. I've done a successful job of helping the scientists grow and develop and do research. And now they are contributing to this tree of mentoring, going all the way back from Pythagoras all the way down to us here today. We're all part of that wonderful team that has changed the world for everyone in such a wonderful way. And that's really all down to this connection of this relationship. So you have to live, die, repeat, as we see. So, oddly enough, I've tried to talk about mentoring with all these rather interesting connections. And you can see that my personality is all based on the movies that I love and the TV that I watch. And I've always dreamt of just doing a presentation just with pictures, because I think pictures are the best way to encrypt simple phrases. And it's just such a beautiful way of representing who I am. So this is what I do when I interview new people. This is me, okay? This is me with all my personality. This is how I'd like it. Do you want to come on this journey with me? And you should always choose and think of someone that you want to go on this journey with, because it's a journey that'll never stop. And hopefully it'll be mutually beneficial to both of you. So it's one of the important points from today. Ooh, this slide's gone a bit funny, but there you go. So I wanted to crunch these down. So these are 12 rules for your scientific life. So number 1, choose your mentor carefully. Number 2, find additional mentors, more than just one. Number 3, make feasible plans for your interactive relationship. Number 4, make sure that you give feedback both from them and from you. Number 5, always keep asking questions. Number 6, if you do something wrong, your mentor will desperately be happy that you told them. They won't be upset. They'll be happy that you're fixing the problem. Number 7, you are a team. They need you, you need them. Number 8, when you do get success, you definitely celebrate it, because you really have to, because it won't come often. Number 9, you really have to discuss your future plans and think about them early on, because you want to grow together. You don't want to drift apart. Once you leave, important to always stay in contact and maintain your relationship. Number 11, try and collaborate in the future and be part of this academic tree. And number 12, the real measure of success and the ultimate output of this mentoring relationship is for you to go and repeat it and do it again. So I really hope that all of you out there can continue and proceed with this wonderful interaction between humans and science. I think it's the most important thing that we can do. So thank you so much for listening to me ramble on, hopefully not too long. So this is from me in the Receptor Biology Lab, and thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to the questions. And once again, thanks to Hello Bio for organizing this fantastic conference.
Thank you so much, Stuart. That was a fantastic start to the conference. So just before we move on to the Q&A, take a screen grab of all of Stuart's contact details, or you can message Stuart in the event chat as well. Okay, so let's take these slides down. So we have one question for you, Stuart, from Sam. And Sam asks, is obtaining a mentor or finding a mentor a formal process, or is it perfectly acceptable for you to just rock up to a colleague and say, oh, hi, I really admire you. Can you be my mentor? And also, what do you do if they say no?
Oh, that's a great question. So my answer is do it informally. Is that I think it's much better. So as a mentor, you're always impressed and happy when somebody has the get up and go and the proactive nature of coming to talk to you and coming to see you. That instantly is a self-selecting process to go, goodness, they are interested in me and what I do, and they've got the chutzpah to come and talk to me about it. So that, I think, please always go informal. That's the most important thing. If someone says no, blimey, I've never experienced that yet. And I've never actually, if someone has approached me, I've never denied them that. But if they do, I wouldn't worry about it too much, because the truth is, if they say no to you, you don't want to be with them anyway. And it's sort of, so you will end up being in a mutually selective process. So if you do ask them, and so if you do want like an extended mentor relationship, so the other important thing is you might not need to say it. So having one of these external mentors, having like these additional mentors, it's just someone that you're talking to. You don't have to say, can you be my mentor on this? You can just talk to them and get advice from them. So mentoring you can meet a random person on like the subway somewhere and talk to them for a few minutes, and they might give you such a wonderful piece of advice or a bit of genius insight that can stay with you forever. So mentors can be like sort of micro mentors that you meet for a few minutes and say one thing, or they could be with you for the rest of your life. So perhaps if you're worried about rejection, just talk to them. And talking and getting consistent advice is good. If it's your primary mentor, then I feel happy in a way that you haven't ended up with the person that isn't interested in your welfare or isn't interested in your science or your personality or how you do things. It's a mutually selective process.
Excellent. Oh, Sam, you're muted.
Oh, hang on. Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to pop myself into the stream there to just say, so your advice then, Stuart, to anyone is just, if there's someone you think can really add value to your sort of role and everything, just go for it, even if they're a Nobel laureate, because obviously
absolutely it's this is the thing. Even though we look at all these wonderful, tremendously big scientists, they're still regular people. I know many Nobel laureates and stuff, and they're regular people. Don't be afraid. They're just like you, and they may have all the names and the titles and the letters after their name, but you're just as good, and you're just as important. And if you knock out all the other people in these big networks of science and stuff, it'll fall apart. Those people don't hold it together. It's everyone that holds it together. And so often, these networks are maintained by the people that aren't big or don't have big names, but you're part of it. I think that's one of the most important things that I've thought about, is the importance of everyone. We do this in our science. I do a lot of bioinformatics, and you only see certain types of biology when you look at things at a huge level, and then you see the patterns and you see what's important, rather than just the individual superstars and stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really good to know. It's a long time since I've been in a lab, or since I was a PhD student. But yeah, the feelings that that person you can't talk to because they're so, they've got so many letters after the name or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this kind of advice would have been of benefit to me, certainly. I did also want to apologise, Stuart. I didn't give you your introduction, so I didn't tell everyone here your very illustrious career.
Well, that's actually perfectly fine, because I shouldn't be. I'm just a guy. I'm just a dude. That's it. So it's like you should be known by the dint of your work rather than all that. So actually, that's the perfect way of introducing. And if I'm boring or dull, then I'm boring or dull. Having the letters after my name doesn't make me smarter or more enigmatic. So I always tell people that. I often have students email me and say, "Oh, dear Professor, blah blah blah." So no, I'm just Stuart, and that's it. Please, we don't do that. And the humility, I think, is important, because even though you do get old and you rise up, you would, if you stand on formality, you distance yourself from these mentoring relationships, because people do get scared, and they won't tell you if they've done something wrong, which is a disaster, because if that happens, then I know it's going to happen. So I'm not surprised that you tell me, because I've, as a scientist, all you can do is make every single mistake once, and then hopefully not again. And that takes a few years. Once you've done that, you've made every mistake. But, I'm honest about it. Other people will say, "Oh, no, I never make mistakes." Like, no, I've made every mistake. And it's like, everyone is a great story. And it's often fun to tell these and stuff. So everyone will collect their stories of horror in the lab. So it's part of the process.
Can you ever have too many mentees, do you think, as a mentor?
It is a problem. It can be a problem, and that's actually, so the mega lab sort of way of, a lot of investigators, feel pride with having hundreds or 20s of mentees, and then the relationship does become very small and fractured. So the best way to get around that is to have some form of delegation, and actually realize and actually sort of spot amongst some of your more senior people who are the ones that attract the reliance and the interest of the other students. And you often find there's this thing of approachability, and it's tremendous. There are just some people that are tremendously approachable. I'm the complete opposite. I've got this sort of stony, dull face, unfortunately, which is not true, because I'm a very different person. But there are some people out there that are just approachable, and people just love them, and they instantly attract people. And those sort of people think, they're the sort of nexus of the lab. They're the ones that everyone goes to. So often you can sort of mentor by mentoring that person. So you have to see who is the sort of the linchpin of your lab, and who is the person that is actually the confidant of people there. Then you'll get to know a lot more about people. And it's a difficult process because you don't want to be intrusive, and everyone has their own private lives and stuff. But there's a certain degree of understanding people that is outside of those things. But the understanding and appreciation is the most important thing to maintain. And often a lot of people don't do that. I think a lot of people are scared about this overstepping of boundaries. But this is at a functional level. It's your boss should be there to help you function as a scientist more in a better way. And so that's often one of the things not a lot of people spend enough time on doing, is understanding the emotional requirements of science and the emotional requirements of work and what makes people tick. So as a mentor, you have to identify what makes people function best, and spend your time doing that. So being an observer is tremendously important. So you can't just focus on your own thing. You have to realize that actually your talent is just as important as the new big mass spectrometer you could buy. Because you have all the machines in the world, but if no one's working on them and everyone's staying at home, it doesn't work. So you have to work on the human value. That's the importance of the relationship. And often people don't get educated about this. They don't think about it. I've spent my entire life thinking about these relationships because I realize that that's the important thing. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah, it's so true. And we've got time for one more question before we need to finish up and move on to the panel. So thank you so much, Sam, for jumping in on the discussion. That was so helpful. So we've got a question from James Flanagan in the Q&A, who's also on our Hello Bio team. Hi, James. And James asks, when do you think you can become a mentor? So does this happen professionally? Do you have to have all the letters after your name, as you say? Do you have to have a senior position, or is it just a call that you make in yourself if you feel like you're able to help and you're able to offer something?
Well, that's a great question, because actually I do some work for the University of Luxembourg, and we actually have instigated a new Special Mentors Award. And when we discuss the award of these things, we often realize that there are many different levels of mentoring. And there are people that are mentors who are almost the peers of people who have received the actual mentoring advice. So the truth is, it's all based on experience, or experience of science perhaps, or also a personal experience. So as a mentor, you can be, if you can help, so this is the ultimate purpose of mentoring, is helping. If you can help somebody either with a technical issue or an emotional issue or a cognitive issue or an academic issue, if you can help, you're a mentor. So if you're a positive, helpful person, you are a mentor. You don't need to be lab boss or senior or blah, 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 blah. If you can help, you're a mentor.
I love that. That's brilliant. And I think that's going to lead so nicely into the talk on imposter syndrome we've got coming up later. So that's brilliant. So thank you so much, Stuart, for your time. Problems. Stuart will still be hanging around in the event. So if you do have any questions, you can ask him in the chat. And do check out the stage chat, because there's some great chats going on in there. One of our speakers from later, Joanne, is sharing lots of resources. So do definitely hang around and stay in that chat. So thank you so much, Stuart.
No problems.